Bitcoin has now retraced back to a major level, and that's the 90K. If you watched my video yesterday, I discussed the short-term and the long-term perspective for Q1 for Bitcoin itself, and this was a very predictable move. But now today in this video I want to focus on the altcoins because I see a lot of people are still worried about the altcoin season and are altcoins going to pump at all at any time. And I want to tell you that altcoins are driven by the business cycle, and that's not a secret, but that's something that people miss and people never learn. And why the altcoin season hasn't come yet, that's purely because the business cycle has now been expanded. And even if you listen to Trump himself, he is telling you all day long that this year is going to be a banner year. It's going to be a very important year. Why? Because they're going to jam the market with liquidity and they're going to push the fiscal stimulus through at scale. This is when the altcoin season actually happens. It all comes down to the business cycle. Most people watching this are completely confused about what's going to happen this year, and to be honest with you, from everything I'm seeing, a lot of people are still wrong and are still guessing, and they're relying on purely on historical patterns, which should not be the case. A lot of people are saying crypto is over, altcoin season is gone forever. There are too many tokens, which is partially true. There is a lot of tokens, not like in the past, and capital is not enough, and it spreads so thin across all the coins. But this is not the main reason. As well, others are saying that we're already in a bear market, like the 4-year cycle that happens every time. But I want to tell you that altcoins are driven by the business cycle, and in 2025 this business cycle was suppressed. That's why we haven't had a proper altcoin season yet. Yeah, we had some partial coins pumping here and there, but mostly no projects, very few projects managed to reach their previous all-time highs. And that's why people are saying everywhere across X and other social media platforms that they robbed us of altcoin season. It's never coming back. There are too many tokens. Crypto is dead. And so on. But that's because the business cycle is so weak. And when the business cycle is weak, earnings are lower, risk appetite is lower, capital stays defensive. But once the business cycle turns up, something very specific happens. Earnings increase. And when earnings go up, people reinvest these earnings further out the risk curve into riskier assets. That means we first have the safe assets like gold, potentially real estate, Bitcoin, you can move into that, then equities, then we have altcoins. And this isn't something unique to crypto. It's exactly the same mechanism that we've been having for years. And why I'm saying liquidity is coming in 2026, it's not a coincidence. There is a specific reason for that, and I'll tell you why shortly. First of all, Trump himself is saying, he's openly telling you, and some other big figures, they're telling you we are going to have a big year this year. Why? Because they are going to force this to happen. They're going to inject liquidity. They're going to push fiscal stimulus. We also have banking deregulations, $3 to $4 trillion of potential credit creation, and this is enormous liquidity lining up. Why is this all happening? The big question: because they want to win the elections. They want to win the elections, and this is part of the game. The game, which is very simple. We have jammed the business cycle into expansion ahead of elections. And when you combine this with debt rollovers, stacking up, liquidity injections, credit expansion, it tells you something important, that altcoin season hasn't happened yet. It's still ahead of us. And as I said, main driver is winning the game, the elections, so jamming the business cycle into expansions just ahead of these elections. And that's, as I said, aligned with debt rollovers, liquidity expansions, credit expansion, and so on. That's why it's no longer a 4-year cycle, but it's rather a 5-year cycle. In 2022, 2021, that period, something happened. The US government extended the average maturity of its debt from roughly 4 years to about 5.5 years. That single change pushed the entire business cycle forward by 1 year. So this means less liquidity earlier, more liquidity later. And that's why the cycles feel strange. A lot of people were expecting the top and altcoin season in 2025. And that's why people got surprised, asking, has the cycle ended? Why doesn't this look like before? Everyone is so confused. But the structure of liquidity has entirely changed with this one single shift. All of that debt that is sitting at record high levels right now needs to be rolled in 2026, not 2025, which means liquidity would peak later and risk assets will peak later, and of course altcoin season will come a little bit later, not as in previous cycles. And if we talk about the ISM, which is critical and it tells us how the economy is doing, below 50, that's a contraction. Above 50, we have expansion of the economy. And the ISM has been sitting below 50 for more than a couple of years. You can see here that the whole 2025, more than 3 years actually, it's been sitting below 50, and that's a record. When the ISM moves back above 50, Bitcoin and Ethereum historically enter super cycles. We see risk-on behavior across markets. We see all the assets booming. But we've been having the ISM below 50 now for 3 years in a row. And answering the big question, when does altcoin season happen? I think it's likely to happen in 2026, peaking probably around Q2 or Q3 of 2026. Not 2025 for sure. I don't think we've seen the altcoin season in 2025, although we had some partial pumps here and there, and we had a massive drop in October, which was aligned with the 4-year cycle, and this was all the people believing in the 4-year cycle theory, which probably dumped their bags. We have further to go, and the biggest liquidity burst is still ahead of us, and altcoins will benefit last, and they will benefit the most. So that's my theory and my opinion, and as I said, we have elections coming up, we had debt rollovers, we have more liquidity. That's my thoughts. Now I'm curious to hear from you. What do you think? Are we going to see the altcoin season in 2026, or that's already dead? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.